Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a problem I think almost everyone who tries to run, a high-stakes group has
Yeah.
encountered, that universal frustration, right? Trying to launch a temporary focused community, maybe it's a month-long paid expert cohort, a 6-week mastermind, or even just a temporary team pulled together for a specific company project,
Mhm.
only to watch all that potential, all that high-value communication just immediately dissolve into these chaotic, noisy social media feeds. It's
Oh,
maddening.
damn, absolutely. It's that instant dilution of focus, isn't it? You
Yeah.
gather these really motivated people for a specific time-sensitive goal. And the moment you put them onto a platform that's basically designed for infinite scrolling and, well, distraction,
Yeah.
the project starts to wobble,
Uh-huh.
sometimes immediately. And our sources today are pretty comprehensive on this. We're looking at everything from academic research on these fast expert teams and how they build trust or fail to, all the way to the surprisingly nitty-gritty details of data compliance, which most people don't think about initially, and then how some newer rapid deployment tech, often talked about as Web4 infrastructure, might actually let us bypass these systemic failures.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to get under the hood and understand why traditional social media platforms, even the big ones we all use, are just fundamentally flawed for these temporary focused, often paid communities, and then crucially pivot to the strategic solution. How does embracing this idea of digital sovereignty combine with tools that let you spin up specialized digital spaces almost instantly? How does that offer a superior, more organized, and frankly more efficient and profitable alternative for businesses and creators running these kinds of things?
We've got a lot to cover. I mean, from that terrifying 5.2% organic reach figure on Facebook to the specifics of SEC liability for disappearing messages. It's quite a landscape. Okay, let's start with that fundamental paradox you mentioned. These huge established social platforms, the household names, they are fantastic at increasing visibility. They're the bustling public squares of the internet, right?
Absolutely. If you want eyeballs, that's where you go. Launching a product, reaching millions, check.
But, and this is where our sources get really critical, they are terrible, just awful at building strong, focused community engagement. And even worse, at maintaining that dedicated, quiet space you absolutely need for a high-value cohort. The platform itself, ironically, becomes the enemy of the mission.
Because it's leased land, right? That's the core concept here.
Exactly. Leased land. You might have a huge following, but you're still just a tenant. The landlord controls the building, the rules, the plumbing, and crucially, the landlord decides who actually gets to see the messages you pin on the community notice board.
And the biggest hurdle the landlord throws up, that's the algorithmic drain you mentioned.
Yes, the algorithm drain. Sounds bleak, because it is. We often think about algorithms controlling public posts, sure. But what's surprising to many is that even within a private or semi-private group, that user experience is still controlled by algorithms. And these algorithms are designed to prioritize content based on interaction and engagement metrics across the whole platform.
Right, so it's not optimized for the group's specific goal.
Not at all. It's a key distinction. The algorithm doesn't care if you paid, say, $500 to join a focused 6-week course on financial modeling. What it cares about is whether your post about that modeling generated more quick likes or comments than, I don't know, a celebrity gossip post that appeared 2 slots above it in someone's feed.
Because the platform's goal is eyeballs on the platform. Maximize time spent scrolling.
Exactly. Not to help your temporary community achieve its focus goal quickly and efficiently. Those are fundamentally opposing objectives.
And the numbers on this are just, well, stark. That piece of research highlighting organic reach collapsing to just 5.2% for Facebook pages. Think about that. You've got 100 people who paid you for a dedicated temporary course. Only 5 of them might reliably see your critical announcement about tomorrow's live session. That's broken.
It's completely broken. And that gap, that 94.8% of your paid audience potentially missing vital info, creates an immediate trust deficit and frustration. And worse, it creates this commercial compulsion. The group admin, feeling like a hostage to the algorithm, suddenly feels forced to pay for ads or boosts.
Just to reach their own members.
Just to reach the people who already paid. It completely flips the financial model on its head. You paid to acquire the customer, maybe through ads elsewhere. And now you're paying the platform landlord a recurring fee just so your customer can access the thing they already bought from you.
It just kills the whole idea of organic engagement within the group. You're basically paying ransom money to overcome the platform's own mechanics.
Precisely. And that's before we even get to the sheer distraction environment. Social media is engineered to be an endless, highly sophisticated stream of unrelated stuff. Now, imagine a high-stakes temporary community. Time is absolutely critical. Focus is paramount. Maybe it's a 2-week design sprint to finalize a product feature. Every second counts.
Right.
So your member logs in, maybe just trying to find that one critical design file you uploaded, and they are immediately forced to wade through family photos, maybe some highly polarizing political arguments, viral cat videos, whatever.
Their attention is just shattered instantly. And if you're trying to build what the research calls swift trust, which is so vital for these temporary teams, as we'll get into, you need deep, focused interaction, not this fragmented, shallow scrolling between random posts.
The platform's very architecture is designed for distraction, which makes it almost lethal for temporary groups that need 100% focus and peak efficiency to succeed in their limited time frame.
Okay, so distraction, algorithms. What about ownership? That seems like the elephant in the room for anyone running a business on these platforms.
Huge elephant. Lack of control and ownership. This is the core flaw for any serious entrepreneur or established business. If you launch your temporary expert group on Facebook, or even set up a paid community on some other shared platform, you fundamentally do not own it. The platform can change its terms of service overnight. They can hike fees, they can change features, right. Or worst case scenario, they can just shut down your group entirely. Maybe you violated some rule you didn't even know about.
And you have zero recourse. Imagine your whole cohort, all that paid content, just vanishing mid-program. That's a massive business risk.
Enormous. And it creates these data silos too. As the admin of a paid program, you absolutely need to be able to contact your members outside the platform's walls, for critical updates or if the platform itself goes down.
Basic business continuity.
Right. But these public platforms often deliberately make it hard, sometimes impossible, to get direct access to crucial member info, like verified external email addresses. They want to keep you locked in. So if the platform has an outage, or if a key message gets buried by the algorithm, you often have no reliable backup channel to reach your paying customers.
And what about privacy? Especially with expert communities, people might be coming from regulated industries.
That's another huge layer of friction. Participants, particularly experts from big corporations or fields like finance or healthcare, are often deeply wary about the data being collected and shared by these mega platforms. We all know the stories. So what happens? They might hold back, participate minimally, refuse to share sensitive project information, which fundamentally limits the actual value and output of the temporary community you've tried so hard to assemble.
We see similar issues even on platforms that seem more community-centric, right? Like Discord.
Yeah, Discord is interesting. It's free, it's fun, it's great for real-time chat and maybe gaming communities. But our sources suggest it's just not robust enough for a serious, structured paid community business, especially a temporary one that needs clear archiving, easy navigation, and structured learning content. Threading can be messy. File management is basic.
It's not built for that kind of organized, temporary project workflow.
Not really. And then there's the monetization side. If you use their built-in paid subscription tools, which, by the way, are often limited geographically, mostly to U.S. users right now,
yeah,
Discord takes a mandatory 10% cut of your gross revenue.
10%. Just for basic hosting and payment processing?
Yeah. For a business, giving up a tenth of your top-line revenue just for the platform infrastructure is, well, it's punitive, especially when that 10% doesn't even buy you the deep organizational structure you desperately need for a short-term, high-value project.
And what about something like Reddit? People form communities there all the time.
Reddit's great for niche interests, absolutely. Yeah. But it comes with its own very strong culture and very strict platform-wide community rules. If your brand or the specific needs of your temporary cohort require a certain style of moderation, or if you need to implement a specific commercial structure or enforce certain interaction rules, you'll often find Reddit's general rules impose immediate limits on your flexibility and control. You have to fit their mold.
So across the board, whether it's Facebook, Discord, Reddit, the risk of low engagement, poor organization, and lack of control is just baked in.
Exactly. Because, as the research reminds us, a community's value is directly tied to its members' focused activity and interaction. And this leased land model seems almost designed to suppress exactly that.
Okay, this feels like a good pivot point. We've talked about the general chaos of leased platforms. Now let's zoom in on why this is particularly disastrous for these temporary expert communities.
Right. Our sources really dig into this, particularly research on what they call temporary online expert communities, or TOX, sometimes also called fast expert teams, FETs.
Fast expert teams. I like that name. It captures the urgency.
It does. And these teams are fascinating because they are designed to be transient. You pull together experts, often from totally different organizations, maybe even competitors. They come together for one specific, highly focused, short-term goal. Could be solving a technical problem, developing a strategy, responding to a crisis.
And because they're temporary, often these people don't know each other beforehand. Maybe just a name on a screen.
Precisely. So they don't have months of working together, grabbing coffee, building normal workplace rapport. This means they absolutely need to form what the researchers call swift trust.
Swift trust. Okay, what does that entail?
It's basically establishing trust almost instantly. Trust in each other's competence, trust in their reliability, and crucially, trust in the system that brought them together.
So the platform itself plays a role in trust building.
A massive role. This is where impersonal system-based trust becomes essential. Participants have to trust the digital platform, the technology itself, to be reliable, secure, and above all, organized. If the platform architecture is clunky, confusing, or unreliable, that system-based trust fails right out of the gate, before the experts even really start interacting deeply.
So a bad platform can kill trust before people even get to know each other.
Absolutely. The platform's design, its architecture, has to actively support the specific needs of that temporary community. For example, if the goal is collective action, like deciding on priorities, the platform needs clear negotiation mechanisms, structured ways to debate options, maybe vote, not just an endless unstructured comment thread where good ideas get buried.
Right.
If the goal is knowledge sharing, it needs robust, easily searchable archiving, clear structure, maybe controls over who can access what information. A well-designed, intuitive platform basically reduces the cognitive burden. It lets the experts focus their brainpower on the actual task, the knowledge sharing, the problem solving, not on figuring out how to use the darn platform.
But if the platform is hard to use, if finding that crucial document takes 10 minutes of searching.
Immediate friction, frustration, and that directly damages the system-based trust. People start thinking, if they can't even get the platform right, how organized is this whole project?
And I guess I could bleed over into interpersonal trust, too. If I'm struggling with the platform, maybe I start doubting the competence of the person who set it up, or even my fellow experts. Like, is anyone here actually on top of things?
Exactly right. It's a potential cascade of failing trust, all triggered by bad user experience or poor organizational structure within the platform itself. And the research actually gives us a kind of chaos checklist specific factors that actively inhibit trust in these temporary high-stakes groups.
Okay, let's hear the checklist. What kills swift trust?
Unsurprisingly, number one is the limited time. A tight deadline doesn't just mean less time for tasks, it actively reduces commitment if that time feels wasted. If the platform makes me spend, say, 2 hours of my precious sprint time every week just trying to find the latest version of a file or track down a key discussion thread, my commitment starts to wane. Trust erodes.
Makes sense. Time wasted is commitment lost. What else?
The second big one is information overflow. This popped up really strongly in a case study we looked at. It involved one of these FET networks using a digital collaboration tool called HowSpace for about a month. What happened? Participants reported feeling disrupted simply because there was too much discussion happening on the platform. And crucially, the platform wasn't structured well enough to manage that volume.
So even good contributions become noise if there's no organization.
Precisely. People couldn't keep track of comments, updates, who said what where. One person literally said the mass was so huge that somehow you couldn't really keep track whether there were any comments in my comments. That feeling, being buried under a mountain of potentially relevant but completely unstructured information, it's just lethal to a time-sensitive project. Frustration skyrockets, effectiveness plummets.
Yeah, I can feel that. It's that sense of overwhelm. You know, you should be reading maybe 50 updates, but you can only realistically process maybe 10 in the chaos. So you start cutting corners, maybe missing critical insights. The platform's chaotic architecture actively prevents the community from succeeding.
Exactly. The structure fails them. And the third key factor on the chaos checklist is unclear roles. In a temporary team where people are strangers, not knowing clearly who is responsible for what, or even just who the other participants are and what their expertise is, creates uncertainty. People get hesitant. They hold back contributions, maybe fearing they'll step on someone's toes or duplicate work that someone else is already doing.
So that uncertainty, layered on top of the limited time and the information chaos, it just paralyzes people.
It can, yeah. It makes those initial interactions feel high risk instead of collaborative. Which, again, directly damages the development of that essential swift trust. Everyone's sort of cautiously feeling their way around instead of diving into the work.
This really brings it home. If these leased platforms inherently create conditions that damage organizational efficiency and actively undermine the psychological need for swift trust, how can any business justify using them for a paid, high-value, temporary offering? It seems like you're actively shooting yourself in the foot, reducing your own ROI.
Well, in the long run, our sources suggest they probably can't justify it. The key takeaway here is profound. The actual architecture of the digital space, the platform, deeply influences the psychological and sociological dynamics of the team within it. If the environment is confusing, disorganized, frustrating, it prevents people from focusing on the task. The platform needs to impose structure, organize the potential chaos for them. It needs to help turn that disparate group of experts into a cohesive, high-functioning temporary unit almost overnight. And that simply cannot happen reliably on general-purpose social media.
Okay, so given this deep, almost inevitable organizational chaos that comes from relying on leased land for these temporary high-stakes communities, the strategic solution seems pretty clear, right? It's moving away from just paying rent on social media.
Exactly. It's about investing in an owned community platform. Thinking of it not as an expense, but as a core business asset. You're building a digital property, something that drives what some call the in-app community loop.
The in-app community loop, tell me more about that.
It's basically the idea that within your own environment, engagement naturally leads to internal referrals, better retention, and sustainable growth, all happening inside an ecosystem you actually control. It allows you to shift focus away from constantly spending money on expensive external marketing, high customer acquisition costs, or CAC, towards generating value internally, which compounds over time.
And that shift, that move to an owned asset, it actually has significant financial returns.
Massive returns, according to one statistic we found. Companies that successfully integrate these own social loops, where happy, engaged members naturally refer others and stay around longer, they see their revenue increase, on average, 2.8-fold.
Wow, 2.8 times. That's huge. That's not just incremental improvement.
No, it's transformative. And it's not just marketing fluff. It comes directly from increasing the customer lifetime value. When a member joins your temporary cohort, and it's organized, focused, and delivers high value because the platform supports it, their satisfaction is way higher. Their results are better. So they're exponentially more likely to maybe buy into the next cohort or purchase another related offering. Plus, if your best customers are bringing in new customers through internal referrals within that great environment, your acquisition cost plummets. That combination directly leads to that huge potential revenue lift.
So you're building like a fortress of value instead of just setting up a temporary tent on someone else's crowded beach.
That's a great analogy. Exactly. And owning the platform gives you unparalleled power over two critical things, especially for temporary cohorts: monetization and customization.
Okay, let's break those down. Monetization first. How does owning help there?
Flexibility. You're not tied to the platform's limited or costly options. You can set up flexible payment structures. Maybe a one-time fee for this specific 6-week cohort. Maybe installment payments to make it more accessible. Crucially, you can easily gate access to specific channels or content based on payment tiers. So your premium members get access to the bonus Q&A sessions while standard members don't. That's hard or impossible to manage cleanly on generic platforms.
And customization, how deep can that go?
Really deep compared to the leased land options. We're talking full branding, making it look and feel like your company or program, not Facebook's or Discord's, using your own custom domain name. Often, you get things like unlimited storage for course materials and recordings, and the ability to structure your channels exactly how you need them, not just public or private, but maybe secret spaces for specific small group work or different tiers of access. That clarity of structure, built right in, immediately helps tackle that unclear roles and information overflow chaos we talked about earlier. People know where to go and what they have access to from day one.
Okay, monetization and customization are big benefits. But you mentioned compliance and legal risks earlier. That sounds potentially scary. How does owning the platform help there?
It's absolutely critical and often overlooked, especially by smaller creators or startups. But it becomes a massive liability as you scale. Regulatory bodies, think the FTC, the DOJ, even the SEC and FedNRR and finance, are increasingly focusing on the preservation of electronic communications. All of them. That includes the messages on supposedly ephemeral apps like Telegram or Signal, or even just private DMs within a Facebook group.
Wait, so even private group chats could be subject to legal discovery?
Absolutely. This is the liability trap. If your temporary high-value project relies on a public platform like Facebook, or you're using WhatsApp groups for communication, you're basically hoping that the giant platform landlord is handling complex compliance, like GDPR data storage rules correctly. But here's the kicker. The startup, the creator, the business running the cohort, you're legally considered the data controller, which means you remain 100% liable if data is lost, misused, improperly stored, or can't be produced during legal discovery.
So relying on the platform doesn't absolve you of responsibility.
Not at all. Let's paint a quick scenario. Imagine a founder running a temporary mastermind cohort using a private Telegram group. Maybe they discuss potential pricing strategies, future business deals, maybe even investment ideas. If that company ever gets investigated, say by the SEC for potential market manipulation, or if they face a lawsuit requiring discovery, those private Telegram messages suddenly become crucial evidence.
And if they weren't properly archived because they were on a platform you don't control?
Big trouble. We've seen documented cases where courts have issued severe sanctions, like adverse inference sanctions, basically assuming the missing data was unfavorable because companies failed to preserve messages from these kinds of uncontrolled third-party platforms. Relying on leased land means you have zero practical control over the data's life cycle, retention policies, or security, yet you carry all the legal risk. It's a ticking time bomb for many.
Okay, that's sobering. So how does digital sovereignty, owning the platform, fix this?
It gives you direct, granular control. You decide on the data policies. You can ensure compliance with regulations like GDPR, for instance, choosing exactly where the data is stored geographically, maybe keeping EU citizen data within the EU. You set the retention policies, how long messages are stored. You implement the security protocols directly. You control the archiving process. It's about future-proofing your business, turning that hidden, potentially massive operational vulnerability into a managed, controlled asset.
Right. It's proactive risk management. Can you give us a concrete example? Like, how does a platform built for this actually provide that control and organization?
Sure. Let's take a platform like Circle, which is often cited as a good example of this owned community model. They offer really diverse, flexible spaces, which are perfect for structuring temporary cohorts. You can have your standard post spaces, which work like organized forums with threaded discussions, great for asynchronous Q&A and knowledge sharing. Then you have event spaces, specifically designed for hosting live sessions, workshops, Q&As, presentations, often supporting large numbers, maybe up to 2,000 people simultaneously. And they even offer chat-style spaces, which feel a bit like Slack channels, but they're integrated within your overall structured community, not just a free-for-all chat dump.
So different tools for different communication needs, all in one place.
Exactly. The key is the integrated structure, and their monetization features are built right in to manage that tiered access we talked about. Circle has native paywalls. These let you charge admission not just to the entire community, but to specific spaces within it.
Ah, so you could have a basic cohort space, and then a premium space with extra coaching calls, and manage access automatically based on payment.
Precisely. It makes multi-tier memberships really easy to set up and manage automatically, which delivers that organizational clarity needed for a high-value temporary offering. No confusion about who gets what.
That sounds much cleaner.
And they also use something called access groups. Think of these as pre-configured bundles of spaces. This is incredibly useful for temporary projects or cohorts. Instead of manually adding every new member to 5 different relevant spaces, you just link their entry point, say, the payment plan they chose directly to the appropriate access group. Boom, they instantly have access to the right set of spaces.
And importantly, they don't have access to the spaces they shouldn't see.
Exactly. It automatically prevents, say, your basic members from stumbling into the private coaching call archive or seeing materials meant only for the advanced expert track. It maintains organizational integrity, ensures people only see what's relevant to them, which drastically reduces that feeling of information overload we identified as a key problem.
Okay, so we've established a strong case. Shifting to an owned platform is vital for boosting revenue, maintaining that crucial organizational clarity, and seriously mitigating legal and compliance risks. But there's still that hurdle, especially for temporary groups. Speed. Who wants to spend months building a custom platform just for a 6-week event or a short project? Seems like overkill.
That's the perfect question. The time to launch has traditionally been the final barrier for many. Why build a mansion for a weekend camping trip, right? And that leads us directly into the solution framework that specifically addresses this need for rapid deployment combined with robust organization. Okay, so we've clearly laid out the core challenge, right? These temporary networks, these FFTs or cohorts, they desperately need the robust, organized structure of a dedicated platform. But they can't afford the traditional complexity the high cost, or crucially, the long development time, usually associated with building your own custom infrastructure. They need structure deployed faster than chaos can take root.
Which, as we discussed, can happen almost instantly on the right platform.
Exactly. So this is where we need to introduce the concept of Web 4 infrastructure and specifically tools built on this foundation, like the one mentioned in our sources, Linkspreed.
Okay, pause there. Web 4. We hear a lot about Web 2, the current internet, and Web 3, the blockchain internet. What exactly is Web 4 in this context? Is it just a buzzword?
That's a fair question, and it's vital to clarify. Web 2, as you said, is the current centralized internet, dominated by the giant social platforms we've been critiquing. It's generally fast, it's user-friendly, but the price is often your data, and you definitely lack control.
Right. Leased land.
Leased land. Web 3, on the other hand, aims for decentralization using blockchain. It promises security, user ownership, data autonomy, but traditionally it's been seen as complex, sometimes slow, and maybe structurally difficult to manage for quick, easy deployment, especially for non-technical users.
Okay, so pros and cons for both. Where does Web 4 fit? Is it building on Web 3?
The vision of Web 4, particularly as embodied by the infrastructure Linkspreed uses according to our sources, is about trying to capture the best of both worlds, but maybe with a different approach. It aims for the structure, the speed, the usability we like from Web 2, but combined with the security and data sovereignty principles of Web 3. Crucially, without relying on the complexities or potential slowness of full blockchain deployment for everything. The core idea is enabling a secure, organized internet experience without the constant collection and sale of user data. Achieving genuine digital autonomy, but making it readily available and focused on rapid, structured deployment.
Okay, so faster deployment than maybe traditional Web 3, more user control and privacy than Web 2, and built for structure. That sounds like it maps perfectly onto the needs of a temporary community.
Precisely. It's an infrastructure philosophy prioritizing speed, security, and structure, the trifecta needed for these time-constrained, organization-hungry temporary groups.
So tell us about Linkspreed then. How does it leverage this Web 4 idea?
Well, Linkspreed, based on the materials, offers a full intranet or community platform built specifically on this type of robust Web 4 infrastructure. And its core value proposition, especially for someone organizing a temporary community like that quick masterclass, a network for a single conference, or a 2-week expert sprint, is its rapid deployment strategy.
Okay, rapid deployment. This hits directly at that time, constraint number 1 on the chaos checklist. How rapid are we talking?
We're talking seriously rapid. The Linkspreed model seems designed to address that time crunch head-on. The claim is that the platform can be launched, fully customized with your branding, and operational within just 1 to 7 days. Our source material even suggests that the absolute basic network setup might be possible in as little as 30 seconds, allowing a founder or community manager to immediately start configuring their specific organizational spaces, the channels, the libraries, etc.
Wait, 30 seconds for the base setup and maybe a week for full customization? That's a game changer compared to traditional custom builds or even just wrestling with the chaos of a Facebook group setup.
It really is. Think about that difference. You're swapping the guarantee of instant chaos and algorithmic randomness on a free public platform for guaranteed structure, control, and organization, deployed within potentially a single business week or even less for simpler needs. That feasibility, that speed, suddenly makes using a custom-owned platform entirely suitable even for a very short-term, highly temporary structure. It removes that old excuse, oh, building my own platform would just take too long for this project.
And does it have the features needed to manage that information flow we talked about?
Apparently, yes. The platform is described as having over 250 features baked in, covering everything from essentials like live streaming and stories for quick updates, to highly structured chat channels, detailed post archives for knowledge management, member directories, event calendars, all designed with a modern, intuitive user experience in mind.
So the tools are there to prevent the information overflow and keep things organized from the start.
That's the goal. The overall strategic message seems to be digital autonomy, real control over your community space is now attainable quickly and affordably. This dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for any startup, creator, or even internal corporate team needing to run a temporary project, regardless of how short its lifespan might be.
And this rapid deployment capability, does it unlock new strategies?
Absolutely. It enables what might be the most effective strategy for creating high-value communities. Hyper-targeting, because you can spin up a custom, organized, secure environment so quickly, you can afford to target a very specific niche audience that's currently going through a particular time-sensitive transition.
What kind of transition?
Could be anything where motivation is peaked. Entrepreneurs hitting a specific revenue milestone and needing new strategies now. Professionals actively switching careers and needing targeted advice this month. New parents laser-focused on postpartum fitness right now.
So you capture them right at that peak moment of need and motivation.
Exactly. You identify that window, you attract them, and you immediately place them into your secure, high-value owned community space. You don't lose them to the algorithmic noise, the distractions, or the onboarding friction during that crucial initial phase when their motivation is highest.
And because it's a dedicated, rapidly deployed space.
Right. That proprietary, quick-to-launch environment ensures the community is composed almost entirely of people who share a very clear purpose and have extremely high intrinsic motivation at that moment. This naturally makes the community exponentially more productive, more focused, and ultimately more valuable, both for the members and the organizer, compared to a sprawling, generalized group on a public site where motivations are mixed and attention is fragmented.
So the organizational clarity provided by the architecture means the time usually wasted managing the chaos
Can be redirected entirely to the core mission, delivering value, facilitating connection, achieving the project goal. It maximizes the return on that temporary interaction.
It really feels like the definitive move. From that leased land, where your valuable content is constantly fighting upstream against low-value noise, to a purpose-built environment designed for organization and focus, deployable literally from day one. You skip the algorithm lottery, you skip the organizational headaches, you skip the compliance nightmares, and you just focus entirely on delivering the high-value result that your temporary cohort signed up for. Deployed at the speed of need. #outro.
Yeah, and if we just, connect this all back to the bigger picture for a moment, the era of defaulting to public social platforms for really high-value temporary projects, whether that's professional cohorts, rapid expert teams, paid virtual events, it's not just inefficient anymore. Our sources strongly suggest it's ending because the combined risks have just become untenable.
Right. The mix of the algorithmic suppression killing your reach, the inherent organizational chaos undermining the actual work, and now these growing regulatory and liability concerns. The true cost of free hosting is actually incredibly high.
Way too high for serious ventures.
So what does this all boil down to for you, the listener? I think the message is clear. The future of efficient community management, especially for these critical short-term events or cohorts, is about owning your space. And the priorities have shifted. It's now about speed and organization. It means being able to deploy a custom, structured, and legally sound environment quickly. We're talking potentially within days, using these rapid deployment models like the Web 4 approach we discussed. That's how you effectively manage both the high-value content and, just as importantly, the formation of that critical member trust right from the start.
And that fundamental shift in technological capability, being able to launch robust owned spaces so fast, it potentially alters the entire playing field for innovation. Think about it. The sheer complexity and time involved in setting up a dedicated, secure space for a temporary expert community has historically been a major barrier. It's slowed down high-velocity, cross-organizational knowledge sharing and collaboration.
But now, if that barrier is significantly lowered, if rapid deployment of secure, specialized communities is truly feasible through models like Web 4, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Will this ability to easily start and end these secure, focused communities fundamentally change how organizations seek out, collaborate on, and maybe even monetize external short-term knowledge and expertise?
It's a provocative thought. If you can build a focused, temporary digital fortress in just a matter of days, why would you ever choose to gather your most valuable people in a chaotic, unpredictable public square again?